Hello, hello. It is two queers in the truck time, and it is the third Wednesday of October, 2022.
That
And
sounds like Lady Gaga.
we got a little Lady Gaga playing here,
Lady Gaga.
and just in her amazing voice with one of her classics, "Born This Way."
Yeah.
Honestly, that's dominated politics in the news for at least 6 years in the Trump era. But some of us believe we're born this way, and some of us don't, and they would like to take it away. And obviously, a lot of things are on the ballot this year. And in our sister show, the coffee show that we do right before this one, we had a politics show that we do usually right before primaries and fall elections and main elections, just for primarily local accounts. But honestly, politics, no matter where you are in the United States or even in other democracies around the world, have to face these things. And society usually has a couple camps, a couple different ideas, and we're no different. There's no exception to difference in political views whatsoever, as we saw play out on January 6, 2021. But anyway, this is Two Queers in a Truck. Hey, Christian, how are you doing?
Hey, Boo, how are you? You're exactly right.
Yeah.
I think the whole world is watching us, and they're trying to see if we are going to go crazy. Yes, or because they follow. They follow. Yeah.
Well, and I'm kind of working off script this show. I did not have time to create a deal, but I've got.
You were busy,
so we're literally going to wing it each segment tonight. We're literally going to go off script, but we got a lot to talk about. So there's a lot going on. Anyway, I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, and we're going to jump right into it. So topic number one, and we kind of alluded to it a little bit in the first show, is we've got a gubernatorial candidate in Arizona that is plainly stated multiple times in multiple different ways that even if the voting goes against her and votes for her Democratic opponent, that she's not going to concede. As a former political candidate that you've run for office twice, would you ever think that an American candidate on any level, no matter what the level is, whether it's local, state, or national, in this era of the Google machine and transparency of the internet, would ever publicly announce that they would not concede loss?
No. I never, well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you don't even trust the election, then why are you running for office? So basically what you're telling people is, I'm so stupid that I know it's rigged and I'm still going to run.
Right.
So that's like an intelligent question. What's your intelligence as a candidate? The second thing is, you would hope that I don't understand. I mean, and you've been following a lot of these a lot more, Jenny. What does she think is going to happen? I mean, does she think that people who are voting for her are going to go, oh yeah, we're going to go out and I don't understand what you would. I mean, she's doing it for a reason. So what's the reason?
Well, I mean, she's a big proponent of the big lie. So she's quoting all these different statistics that 700,000 mystery votes here, all these things, and of course the reporter that I watched do this about 4 or 5 minute interview, and it was on Brian Tyler Cohen's. He replayed this interview on his show and then broke down the segments with his own commentary. But he kind of said something really similar to you: that if you don't believe in democracy, why are you running for office? That's got to be asked. And the reporter did ask that. To the credit, the reporter, and I'm blanking on her name, very much stuck to her guns. She kept asking, and then finally towards the interview even cornered her and said, if you lose, will you concede? And Carrie Lake's response was, well, I'm going to win, so it doesn't matter. So she said that several times, and the reporter said, well, basically, you in a roundabout way, you just believe that you're going to win no matter what. And so apparently you're not going to concede. That's more or less like apparently like.
So Jenny, do you think that she thinks, or maybe the people who support her, that they're hearing that differently than we are? That maybe what they're hearing is, well, she's like every athlete. You don't want to go in thinking you're going to lose. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that would be different if you said, well, if democracy decides that I shouldn't be in this office, then I'll take my loss. You know, so it's like I was an athlete for off and on in my life for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've both won and I've lost. I mean, you can't play, especially on team sports like basketball and football. You don't ever want to go into a contest and say, all right, I'm pretty sure they're better than us and we're going to lose. You don't go in and do that. But that's not what the question is. The question is that if you do indeed lose, you got a 50-50 chance of winning, but you also have a 50-50 chance of losing. And if you do lose and you're outvoted, will you accept it? And will you concede like every other politician's supposed to do? It'd be like, I'm playing in a championship game and we lose a basketball game 84-82. I was like, well, fake news. We had 85. Don't believe what the scorekeeper said, and we won. We won our championship rings. That's the same thing. It's literally your scoreboard for a political race is who has the most votes. Pure and simple. It's a scoreboard thing, especially for popular vote races, everything but the president, it's like that. Like the president, because electoral college, it's not as straightforward as that. But every other race in the United States is whoever gets the most votes, clean and pressed, that's your winner. Whether it's by one vote or 1 million votes, you won the popular vote. Once they do the recounts and all the whatever that comes with that. Once it's clean and pressed and decided who had the most votes, that's it. There's no other discussion. And if you don't believe in the integrity of that, like you said, like it's a very bizarre mentality. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to basically rig the game before they even run, before the votes are even cast. Just like Trump tried to do in 2020, he was already saying the system was crooked and that there was a ballot problem before the mail-in ballots were even sent out in 2020. Like he was saying in July and August, and the mail-in ballots weren't sent out till September. And so they're trying not to go through the democratic process of voting. They're literally just trying to intimidate their way, like the Russian political party of Putin does in Russia and China. They only have one political party. It's the Communist Party. So there is no opponents. You're basically selected for office or appointed for office. That's what they want. They want to be appointed or anointed, and they don't want to go through the pesky, fact-checking way of voting in the United States and people making decisions. That's why they don't like critical thinking. That's why they don't like people too educated. We don't want no smarty pants, fancy pants, Google machine people, those TikTok kids making their own decisions. They're too young and dumb, and the homosexuals are taking over. So we don't want the gay people to vote anymore, which are mostly Democrats. And like they're finding all these reasons why, voting shouldn't even matter anymore, is that we just want to win. And that's the only thing they care about is winning or losing. And winning is important. Yeah, I get it. But if you lose, you lose. Like I've lost championship games. I lost a basketball championship in the first season I played basketball. And it sucks to get all the way there and still lose. But it's part of the game. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we'll go on to topic number 2. Of course, Herschel Walker had one debate last week, and then he had a no-show this week. And I mean, I don't know what my take is. I'm like, I don't know how anybody could vote for somebody that can't even show up for a scheduled televised debate and just leaves the podium open. The memes on Twitter are just blowing up. But again, you have political candidacy appearances. And what's your take as a former candidate that Herschel Walker just stood up, Senator Warnock, and just said, "I'm not coming. It's not going to come."
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've agreed to it, you have to show up.
Yeah.
But I understand that there are candidates, and it happened to me the second time I ran. The person didn't even want to debate. There was no reason for him to debate. He was so far ahead in the polls, and he was expected to win the nomination. So there's no reason for him to, because all he can do is hurt himself. Sure. Whereas I saw it differently. I saw it as, if you're afraid of me, wait till you get to your general election. So your primary, you should be preparing for what's going to happen in the general election. So it should only benefit you, you know.
Sure.
But people look at things differently. And so, but I didn't see the first debate, but I understand he pulled out like a fake police badge or something.
No, they're making fun of him because he got in trouble over having a police badge and had been like pretending to arrest people and pulling them over. This was years ago, and he had some kind of, I don't know, some place had given him an honorary police badge, and I mean, one of the many kooky things this guy's done. Like he got now I do understand he did get destroyed by Senator Warnock, because we're even Walker himself said weeks before, he said, "I'm debating Senator Warnock, but I know Senator Warnock's smarter than me." Like, he already was conceding that he was going to get waxed in that deal, and he did. He got absolutely, I mean, well, he can't even beat his own son in a debate. Like, Christian Walker absolutely destroyed him on the internet.
Can you imagine?
I mean, and Christian Walker's a very young man. He seems very smart and articulate, but he's no match for Senator Warnock. And Senator Warnock's got a very high intellect. He's, been in office almost 2 years and has been a community leader in that state for a long time and is very well respected. And then you got Herschel Walker that's lied about everything, every accomplishment he's ever made in his life. Like, he said he graduated from the University of Georgia. He didn't. He said he finished in the top 10 or the valedictorian or something. He didn't even come close. And he didn't finish, So there's that little pesky fact. So you can't be a valedictorian or top 10 in your class if you never walked across the stage or got a diploma from that place. There's that little.
Well, maybe he was valedictorian for the imaginary graduation.
Well, yeah, and maybe the police academy too, that he doesn't have a badge or a law enforcement license too. Like, maybe it's one of those things where I got my Trump University and I gave Herschel an honorary PhD and piled high and deep of the bullshitocracy and all that. But it's just like, this dude. I mean, the only thing that he's ever said that's true is that he won a Heisman Trophy. He did do that. He did play for several NFL teams, including the Dallas Cowboys. But almost everything he's said on the election trail, it's just like a thought hits his brain, which probably doesn't happen often. And he just goes, "Well, I think I'll lie about this today." Like he's lied about his business career. He's lied about so many things. You got to wonder. Well, even his son said, "Well, this he's a liar. He's abusive. We had to hide from him 6 different times. Like he's abused my mom. He's abused me. He's it's just gone on and on and on. And I do understand why he doesn't want to debate. He didn't want to take a second, beating on TV.
I mean, he probably would have been smart to not debate at all.
Yeah, he should have dodged the debates to begin with.
He should have just Mm-hmm.
I think his ego,
because there was nothing. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what Warner did.
Herschel Walker does have an ego. He does have a narcissism problem. I think his ego wrote a check that even he admitted weeks before he knew he couldn't cash. And I think in true Herschel form, which he's done this his entire life, is that his ego and his narcissism has driven his decisions, and he's made very poor decisions his entire life. And he just isn't really that smart. He just is just like the rest of the MAGAs. They're not the best and brightest as you say all the time, they're not sending their best and brightest. They're sending
It's funny you say that, Jenny. I know we're going to run out of time with this one, but I do want to say something about that because I thought about this all weekend long about the one saving grace, the lining, the silver lining is MAGA people. They can't shut up. Their egos are so big that they can never admit they're wrong. These are characteristics of people who, when they fall, they fall. You know what I mean? They don't have any.
Let's look at Cawthorn. Let's look
exactly.
at our own, a congressman from the state that we live in right now in North Carolina read his mouth so much, even about Republicans, that it'll be forever known as getting Cawthorned. And they literally, his own party destroyed him in his own primary and ran commercials against him, to make sure he lost his primary and was not able to run for re-election. Because they were like, he just ran his mouth just a little too much. And I'm like, okay, we got the receipts. Let's go ahead and break these out. And we will end your candidacy because we know we're a party full of bigots and they're not going to vote for a homosexual. And it's just all there is to it. But we are up against our first break of the show, and we'll be right back with some more Two Queers on a Track.
Howdy, everyone. I'm Christian Cano with the Coffee and Pondusa Show, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I just want to remind everyone that we have less than 22 days, 22 days to vote on November the 8th. And I just want to urge everyone to get out there and vote. If you're not registered to vote, you can actually register, I believe, day of in North Carolina during early voting. But also, please remember to grab your neighbor, grab a tia, a tío, a mija, a mijo, grab someone who's eligible to vote and registered to vote and take them out to vote. This election is so important, as every election is. But remember, you only have about 22 days left. So there's a link that's going to be on the bottom here. Follow that link if you need more information about getting out to vote. And once again, please get out to vote like your family's future depends on it, because our families do. Thank you. Get out to vote.
So we are back. Third topic, and I think it's kind of interesting, but I saved it on my Twitter account. And, it's just one of those things. When I read it, it kind of struck me, not as really funny, but it's something that Michael Moore, that is a progressive filmmaker, and he's done like Roger and Me and a bunch of these things, calling out conservatives and GM and so many political candidates. But in 2016, he predicted that Trump was going to win. He called it very early on that once Trump got the nomination, he predicted it, and he was right. He also is predicting right now that the midterms, the Democrats will turn out a tsunami of voters, is what he said, and nonviolently, legally, and without mercy remove every last stinking traitor to our democracy. And his exact words. I hope he's right. Michael Moore has been one of those people that has always had a very good eye for reality, and his films. I mean, if you're the subject or the target of one of his.
Hey, Jen, repeat that. What he said. What was it? What did he say?
So his exact quote is,
okay,
the Democrats will turn out a tsunami of voters, or a blue wave, and it will be nonviolent, it'll be legal, and it'll be without mercy to remove every last stinking traitor to our democracy. And he's been pretty astute, like when he's done these different things, like when he did his expose on General Motors, when he's done exposés and on other subjects, he's usually had a lot of reasons why. He's a very scientific person. He's a very precise person. He's not.
He usually has his pulse on
He does. He
on things.
So I thought it was interesting because I saw that come up today, earlier in the day before my day got crazy, and so I think that's both an interesting take. I think is somebody that he probably wants us to win too, but he also is a realist. And I think he He's a very fact-based person. He's a very logical person on what he does. And so I tend to agree with him. I think there's a lot of young voters out there that are very aware, that are very well read, that are very much into, making TikTok videos and being involved in our world. They also have the longest amount of time left on this earth compared to people that are older. They have a lot more to lose, and they could lose it for a long, long time. And if I was 21 right now, I would be carrying people in my car to the polls. I'd be helping people register. I'd be making sure that their ballots count. It to be, from my point of view, there's really two clear outcomes as far as one where we keep on trucking and we keep the Democratic majority in the Congress and we keep supporting President Biden and we keep fixing our country. We got a lot of challenges. We've been through a lot in the last 6 years. We've got a lot to fix. We've got a lot to keep in world markets and worldwide economies. And there's so much violence in this country. There's so many challenges that we have, not to mention a little pesky climate change thing that may be a challenge if we don't take proactive steps to fix it, like the other parts of the world that have heavily invested into it. And if we don't take on and keep our obligations to our citizens, and all we're worried about, if you're running for office and all you're worried about is your party winning and you winning, and that's all you want out of an election, by all means, you should vote Republican. If you just care about winning, but to me, the Democratic Party is the only one that's offered up solutions, the only one that in the last 18 months that has come to the table and said, these are the things that we need to do, that even Trump talked about during his presidency and on the campaign trail in 2016, but never delivered, including infrastructure. He talked about it. He didn't talk about it 100 times, then it was 1,000, and never ever put anything on paper. He talked about it, pulling us out of Afghanistan, but never did. There's so many things that Joe Biden has had to do to clean up for, the former guy, and or has had to fix because of COVID, because of the pandemic, because of the worldwide shakeup, the amount of deaths that we've had. There's just a lot of burdens that have been put on President Biden that he inherited that he had nothing to do with. And whether you agree with it or not, it's just fact. We just know that whoever was going to be the president in 2021 was going to have a lot of work to do. And American people said, well, we've seen what this guy's done. Let's put somebody new in office and let's give him a new Congress there. And so I don't think it's that far-fetched that if you like to see things like, student loan forgiveness, and you want to see your access to medical care be protected, if you want to see your grandparents still get their Social Security check like they've been promised, and so we've promised so many Americans, whether they're disabled or they've retired, you want to vote Democrat this time around. You want to keep those things in place, because the other brand is clearly said, that needs to go, and
I agree. Jenny, I agree with you. But see, I see it more. I'm a Democrat, but I'm gonna vote Democrat. But I really see this is like one of the few elections that I remember that I'm also voting anti-MAGA. You know what I mean? And Democrats don't normally do that. Democrats, we normally vote for the message, not against something, but for something. Republicans always vote against something. This is one of the first times where I actually feel I don't have a choice. I have to let people know there's no one in that party that is reasonable to vote for that I have encountered. But I keep trying to look like a glass half full kind of thing. Well, maybe there's a couple of them, but okay. The ones that are running, those are the crazy ones. They knock the normal ones out.
If one party says, I don't care about any of the issues, we just want to win, that we may not even concede the election. And Trump tried to not concede the election by rigging the game on January 6, 2021. And that's all you represent. Then, indeed, when we're saying we're voting against the MAGAs, we're also voting for the policies that we've instituted the last 19 months that Joe Biden has
Exactly.
done. We're saying we want to see more of the same, and we don't want to see that
Sure.
progress reversed out. So we're still voting on issues. I think when you have a political opponent and a political party that's on the opposite side of thinking, and they said, we absolutely uniformly do not believe in democracy anymore. That's voting for a policy. That's saying, no, that ending democracy is an issue. It's a major issue because they've clearly said it in their own words. We're not making this up and saying Republicans are anti-democracy. No, we saw that on January 6th. That wasn't a form of democracy. That wasn't a protest. That was a terrorist attack on a congressional building. As we just saw the January 6th hearings wind up this week, we saw the video of Nancy Pelosi and being calm and cool and collected and leading in that situation and explaining what they needed, what backup they needed, what was going on. And even though Republicans have lied about what she was doing during the January 6th attack, we saw a video, a very different story. And as we've seen during the January 6th hearings, every talking point that the Republicans have lied about January 6th has been reversed out by the eyewitness accounts and the video and the footage. And so there is no debate. And that's really our next topic is January 6th and the impact that it may or not have on this election. But we're seeing the methodical trials of the 800 or so people that are sitting awaiting trial that were part of the attack. And for one, every one of them has either confessed and cut a deal or they've gone to trial and they've lost. Then not one of them has been exonerated at this point. And there's been quite a few trials.
I'll say something about January 6th that I saw on the ABC Sunday morning when you get to that topic. And I thought Donna Brazile was brilliant.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. No, so apparently they were talking, the roundtable, ABC News Sunday morning with George Stephanopoulos. And Chris Christie is one of the panelists, and Donna Brazile, and I think another person. And they were talking about the January 6th in this last hearing. And Chris Christie said, well, people would take it more seriously. He means people as in Republicans, because he speaks on their behalf a lot of times. He said, if they gave the other side, this has just been one-sided. And Donna Brazile basically said, there is no other side. What other side is there? They stormed the Capitol. He said, no, when Chris Christie, he's a big drama queen too. He is, are you just going to talk or are you going to let me talk? And she said, like that, he said, I'm talking about the other side, as far as the other, there's no one on the committee that is offering the other voice. And she said, are you talking about the other voice about the people who, the people who got killed, the police officers? So basically, she's basically saying, no, there is no other side. It was wrong. It's like a child saying, but you didn't hear what I had. No. You did this. It's very black and white. This is one of those few occasions that I agree with her where this is very black and white. You either were insurrectionists, you either for democracy or not democracy. There is no compromise. Well, I just went to the doorstep. No, you either supported them or you didn't.
Right.
And so I was so impressed because very rarely do I hear that from a Democrat.
Right.
Very rarely do I hear, even for me, very rarely do I hear, no, there is no other side. And I've been learning a lot from you, Jenny. You either value transgender lives or you don't.
Right. Yeah,
There's no, well, maybe just, no, you either do or you don't.
So, there's no room for debate on January 6th. It's not a debate of taxation policy or supply side economics versus,
exactly
Keynes or what. We're not debating a policy that can have more than, it's not a nuanced argument where there's multiple layers. We very much saw everything unfold on live TV and CC, closed caption, security cameras. We saw every moment of this during the January 6 hearings. We've watched as the federal court has slowly been prosecuting these people as well. There is no other side because we're talking about an event that happened. And we watched in horror as these people stormed our Capitol, and with the intent of stopping the peaceful transfer of power and having the electoral votes cast. Like there was no, like they didn't attack on January 5th. They didn't check on January 7th. They attacked on the day with that process with T-shirts that say we're stopping the steal. That they went on their social medias, especially before when they were coming to Washington D.C., saying this is why we're coming, is to stop the steal. There is no other argument. It's all over but the crime, and it with the January 6th deal is to denote this in the Congress and the congressional record for posterity's sake. For one, is to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. That's what the hearings were for. That's why it was a bipartisan. Both parties were represented on that committee, and it wasn't like it cost Liz Cheney her seat. She got primaried over that very reason and is not on the ballot this fall and is going to be a regular citizen in January when if her opponent wins the general election, which I don't even know if she even has a Democratic opponent, but it's clearly a heavily Republican district, and she got voted out because she was willing to tell the truth. We're up against our second break, and we will be right back with some more Two Queers in a Truck. Hey, everybody, you can catch us on your favorite audio podcast platform, Spotify, and all Apple Store, the Google machine, and whoever else does podcasts. We're on there. We broke in, and we're staying. So enjoy the Two Queers in a Truck on your favorite audio podcast platform. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye-bye. But, I mean, clearly Chris Christie doesn't realize or is not well read or just very misinformed. Both sides are on the committee. She's one of the co-chairs, a Republican, at least for a few more months, But
it was interesting to see his true, because even though he's trying to come across as like tolerable, right, by criticizing Trump and saying some things and whatever, he's still Chris Christie. He's still very similar to Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and the drama queen people. They're not used to people correcting them. And he's from New Jersey, so he's even, more forceful like that. And so you can tell. I understand what he was. Yes, exactly. Well, yeah. Well, he's not really. Yeah. So, yeah, that's true. You're right. He is from Jersey. So, but what's interesting is I understand.
He go to school in New Jersey.
He's not really from Pennsylvania. No, so I was going to say is that he's on that panel to kind of give the Republican point of view, and I understand what he was trying to say. He was trying to say that Republicans, or MAGA Republicans, think this is a farce because they're not seeing and their voice, whatever. But I love the way she said it. There is no other side. The reason they're not doing it is because there is no other side. This is coming from their side. All the words, all the video, all the witnesses are Republicans who worked with Trump. So it's not like these are Democrats making stuff up. These are people who he paid and was on his staff. And this is video. And so it was hard. What he should have said, but he will never do it. That's a good point. But he doesn't like to be corrected. So I just thought it was interesting the way he said, are you going to keep talking? Or are you going to let me speak? That's like that's like the queeniest girl. You're going to let me keep talking. You're going to, and she was so smooth. She said, go ahead. And then he said, there is no other side. It was brilliant.
Well, and at some point it has to be said over and over again that that the House of Representatives did it the right way. There's been, months of debate. There's been months of discussions. There's been dozens of trials that have already happened, with more coming. There is no question that January 6th happened. We've all seen the footage. There's millions of things that were put up on the social media. There's been millions of different texts. There's been, the preponderance of evidence that January 6th happened is not even debatable. So then the next thing you would have to debate is, well, what's the purpose of the committee? Well, the committee was to research and tell the American people what happened during the deal. It's not to make a decision, or it's not a binding. There's nothing binding about it. Like they're not a prosecutorial or a courtroom. This is just like the Watergate hearings was to decide what happened. What happened, in the Watergate break-in,
Exactly.
50 years ago. And this is the same thing. This is the same. The discussion is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
American people need to know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very serious event. This is an event that
Mm-hmm.
targeted democracy itself. It's never happened in our history.
Sure.
So it is not even a partisan. It's a bipartisan committee, and to great sacrifice for Liz Cheney.
But you know what they're saying is that, well, they're not really
Republican Party that her dad was the vice president of our country for 8 years.
Well, they're saying it's not bipartisan because Liz Cheney and what's his name aren't really MAGA. They're rhinos.
Sure. Yeah.
That's they're like the child that will never admit they made a mistake. Sure. Ever. They will never admit a mistake.
But I think that falls like on deaf ears, because I can't think of Dick Cheney as anything other than a Republican through and through.
Exactly.
I mean, this guy put forth a massive agenda of republicanism in his 8 years. I'd say that he was very dominant in the George W. Bush presidency, and to say that he didn't push the policy of that administration would be crazy. There's a reason why he got nominated as a running mate, and was a very dominant force in the Bush White House years. And as Republican as you can get, just conservative as you can get, a gun-toting, pro-military, pro-defense industry, hardcore red meat-eating Republican. So I don't see them as Republican. At least Dick Cheney ain't a Republican light. And Liz Cheney's going on record to say some very Republican things throughout her career, is very much a Republican. But she also understands that there's right is right and wrong is wrong. And she was also part of the group that was targeted. She was there that day when when Congress got attacked. They weren't coming just saying, hey, we just want Nancy Pelosi. They had a noose with Mike Pence's name on it. Like they weren't coming just to kill Democrats or harm Democrats. Had they gotten that room, those rooms where they were protecting Congress, there's no telling what would have happened. There was thousands of people out there with the intention of stopping this from happening. And they didn't say, well, they're going to get in there and just hug them. I mean, you don't have a gallows with a noose. I just say, oh yeah, we were just joshing about that. That's no big deal. Like, everybody carries a noose, don't they? Everybody builds a gallows, on the congressional steps. Like, that's normal, isn't it?
Do you wish they had been shot?
No.
Okay. Because that's what Lindsey Graham is saying. He doesn't understand why the Capitol Police didn't just shoot him.
Because they were trying to peacefully resolve it, like law enforcement should do in all cases.
Sure.
Especially with motorists of color.
Yeah.
But I believe that, well, first of all, there was only about 5 or 6 cops there when the text first started. I don't know, had they escalated it by opening fire, on that crowd. And there's 800 in jail, but there was way more there. Ballpark has it at 2,000 to 3,000 people. If only 5 of you are on one side, and there's 2,000 or 3,000 people crushing up against you, literally, I'm not sure the opening fire would have been the smartest recourse. And A, you're going to run out of ammo at some point, no matter what kind of gun you were carrying. And B, it may have just escalated it. I think they were trying to just de-escalate as less violently as possible. I think that the cops did the right thing. I don't think that they could have. I don't think those people would have stopped if they'd opened fire anyway. I wouldn't want to be in that police officers. Like I don't think that would have been prudent just to start shooting. Plus, I think that they probably thought the backup was on its way. Or thinking, hey, there's 2,000 or 3,000 people. There's film cameras. Like, good God, when's the backup coming? When's the SWAT team going to roll? When is the National Guard going to roll? This is the congressional building.
Yeah, I don't think they thought. I don't think they thought that.
I don't think they realized they were on their own.
Order backup. Yeah.
That nobody was coming. And I wouldn't have thought that either if I'd have been on that front line, literally fighting for my own life. I think at the time, and of course, when you're out there making that call versus Lindsey Graham, hiding behind doors, not in that situation. I think, for one, that's a really gross statement for Lindsey Graham as a sitting senator to say something like that. I think to encourage law enforcement to shoot civilians, and we don't know what they were going through. We don't know. They take an oath to serve and protect, even people that are doing stupid stuff. And I think their training led them to believe that, and several of them had military backgrounds as well. And I'm pretty sure they realized they were outnumbered, and that, hey, we'll do as much as we can for as long as we can. And literally, 2 of the police officers passed away because of this. And they paid the price for peace and democracy with their own lives. I don't think you armchair quarterback that. When Lindsey Graham gets his little fat ass out there defending democracy and wants to go out there and take that crowd, I was like, well, boys, let's just suck it out and go our peaceful ways. Hey, great. Then you get to make that call. But we saw the Republicans, including old Josh Hawley himself, was hauling ass out the building. Like
that's right.
Like that fist pumping dude, fist pumping to looking like he was trying out for the Olympics and sprinting out of that damn building. And so I think it's mighty white of Lindsey Graham to
Jenny, don't be stealing my lines.
to say, in his big old sissified, dramatic way, saying, well, the cops really probably started shooting him. I'm like, well, how many bullets do you think they have? And do you think it was really going to help the situation by picking off, civilians? And probably a good portion of them, and you don't know how many guns they have. Like, all of a sudden, 2,000 or 3,000 people, and if even 10% of them had some kind of firearm or a weapon of some type, do you think that would have been in the best interest of anybody to have escalated it, or they may turn into one of these one-up situations where they go, okay, you're using guns now, roll in the pickup trucks, boys. We'll break out the heavy. You don't know if they didn't have backup waiting around the corner too. We don't know that at that time. We know more now with all the testimony and all the footage and all the stuff that happened before January 6th. We know more now, but that time, that was a split second in the heat of the battle. You're pinned down. It's not looking good. You're getting, as that one officer she was talking about, and the amount of injuries that she received, and damage to her body. That some of it is probably permanent damage. That literally, they referred to it as a war zone. Like, it was just fists flying and things flying, and it just was a brutal. We all saw it. We all saw it on TV. We know how brutal it was, and I can't even imagine being there. It looked brutal to me on the footage, and being there would have been 1,000 times worse. And so, I would never question what a police officer's did. But it did happen. There is no other side. There's people that believe in democracy, and there's some people in our country that don't believe in democracy. It's just as simple as that. I think it's just one of those things. There's a very clear-cut difference between political parties on that particular issue. There is. They just didn't want a Democrat to be president. They wanted their guy to be president, and
it's so silly the postings that we get on our social media and about how Biden's just old and Camilla's stupid, all this. It's like this childish schoolyard stupidity, and it's like, do you not? It's ageism. Mm-hmm. Do you not? I mean, obviously, in their family, they don't value people who are older. And I think it just highlights the disconnect they have to not only their own family, but I mean, I would rather have a grandfatherly figure than a dick.
Well, but back in school when you got in a verbal fight with somebody,
and
let's say they were clearly,
what am I?
And especially when you got in a verbal fight or an argument with somebody that's clearly stupider than you. So the MAGAs are the stupid kid that has no real comeback. They don't have any kind of clever quip about your mama or anything like that. They're dumber than a box of rocks. They all are. So they don't know what to say, clearly, because Herschel Walker skipped his last debate. They literally can't say anything constructive or policy-driven or intelligent or why you should vote for them. All they got to do is make these wild-ass stories or wild-ass accusations that Biden's this and that and Kamala's this and Democrats are this and running pedophile rings out of pizza places in Washington, D.C., and they got to come up with all these crazy stories that only an idiot would believe. But when you hear it, you go, that's not going to make me vote for Republicans. That's going to make me vote against Republicans because that's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And when you're so dishonest and you sound so stupid, as MAGA Republicans consistently sound like now, anybody with half a brain, no matter how you voted in the past, you can't not look at them and go, I don't want that fucking representing me. Like, if I lived in MTG's district or Bobert or any of these fools, there is no way in hell I'd want them representing me. I don't care if I've been in a Republican family for 5 generations. There's no way I would vote for anybody that has an R next to their name this time around. Like, I'm going, no, that's not even Reagan Republicans anymore. This is something. This is an animal that's so stupid that even as crappy as Reagan and Nixon were, and they were horrible human beings, at least they didn't sound this stupid and this irrational. Reagan and Nixon had some sort of dignity, like this group now, they'll say anything. They'll pop off. They love when people get upset about the stupid stuff they say.
That's why I was a little bit disappointed in Marcus Flowers' debate this weekend with MTG, because he did a really good job, and she went, MTG just ranted, all kinds of stuff. But she had this line she kept using. She said that he's the guy that wears the cowboy hat, but he doesn't have any cattle. it's the old saying, all hat, no cattle,
Sure.
which basically means you're all talk, no substance. That's how it started. She was trying to use it as, he wears a cowboy hat because the only people who wear cowboy hats are people who own cattle. She was so stupid, she didn't really understand that actual saying, all hat, no cattle. Because obviously you can wear cowboy hats and not own cattle, you know? But she's so stupid, she didn't really understand the connection, all hat, no cattle. Because a Democratic precinct chair here posted to me that she always thought I was all hat, no cattle. And I know what she meant. What she meant was, I think it's what she meant. But I don't think she really understood why people wear cowboy hats. It's not because she was trying to insult me, because that's a saying that old Southern people say is, you're all hat, no cattle. Like, you can put a lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. It's one of those old Southern slams kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was disappointed in him, because he should have known that she was going to use that, because he wears a cowboy hat. Anyone who wears a cowboy hat, that's like, I know you are, but what, it's like your mama. That's like that's something you expect to say. He didn't have a good reply. I wish he had replied like, well, and you're a woman who's not really a woman, or some kind of reply.
I didn't watching the debate, and the Twitter was more blowing up about Herschel Walker, and the Senate debate with Senator Warnock. I think that's probably something that is more subjective. I think when you say something that out of touch with what they should have been talking about, and I know how I would have replied. Is my response would have been, well, I mean, I'm running for Congress. I don't know what it has to do with cattle, and I just happen to have a fashion choice. I love my cowboy hats.
Exactly.
And for me, if I would say, well, I wear a lot of latex berets, but I'm not French. I'm not, I can wear a fashion statement from, another European country, or I can wear overalls, I can wear rainbow overalls, but I'm not a gay farmer,
or you say you're a Christian, but you're going through a divorce.
Yeah, and your husband's filings, he literally said why, and
exactly.
One of the big infidelity. I mean, if you really want to, like you're all cheating, no monogamy. So I guess we both have things going for it. But it sounds like my cowboy hat's the least problematic thing that's going to be talked about in this debate. And what we really should be doing is talking about your on-the-job performance or lack thereof. And how many times that you were fined in Congress for not wearing a mask when you wear masks at airports, and you've been photographed everywhere wearing a mask except for your job. Or the fact that you're so irrational, you've been removed off all leadership committees because, quite frankly, you're a lying psychopath, and that you can't do your job. That's how I would have talked to her. But
that's what I wanted to hear.
But I don't think that's Marcus Flowers' style, and I think he wanted to convey his own particular style, which is the voice of reason. That if he goes up there and completely acts like her and retort, then there is no choice. There is no definitive style for voters to vote for if he got up there and acted like a child, like she does, like an irrational.
And that's exactly how she acted.
And the people in that district know what she's done. There is no way you can go on Twitter or any other social media and not see a meme or a quote that she says it's so irretrievably stupid. Like, she's done all the marketing for Marcus Flower that he needs to do. His biggest issue is that's a very right-leaning red district. He has a big. I'm not saying it's not winnable, but it is a big challenge, and I think I haven't seen the debate, so I haven't seen any of this footage. But I just know how stupid she is, and I know how smart he is. I do know that he's trying to market himself, and rightfully so, as the voice of reason. I'm the reasonable, sane alternative to this. If you want 2 more years of this of insanity, keep voting for her, and you'll keep having scandals that are attached to who you are. If you want a voice of reason, a reasonable person, and you know what? If you guys say you don't want me to wear any more cowboy hats, I won't wear any more cowboy hats and make a joke of it. But you just go, look, I'm the voice of reason. What you'll see on the job if you choose me to be your representative is clearly I'm going to stand for this, this, and this, and I won't embarrass you. So it's up to y'all if you want to. If you want to clown,
I'm hoping her cowboy hat comment will actually come back, and because she called him a fake cowboy. She said, "You're just a fake cowboy who wears a cowboy hat." That's what she told him. But so in her district,
schoolyard, but then they go back to the schoolyard crap. Like when you aren't smart, you've got to resort to really stupid, childish name calling because you don't have enough brains to come up with a something that's actually intelligent. When you always sound stupid, and she's consistent about that. If you're going to be like, if you want a stupid person to represent you, like one of the dumbest people ever to be in Congress, she's your candidate. Like, I won't embarrass you. I promise that. Like, I can't do any worse. Like, to me, one of his slogans should be, I can't do any worse than she's done. Like,
what do you got to lose? Use Trump's own slogan, as Trump said. What do you got to lose? You can't be worse than this.
Yeah. You like literally she sets the standard for stupidity in Congress. What's the worst thing that can happen? You can vote me out in 2 years, but at least get rid of her. At least stop embarrassing your own district. And so that's what I'd be saying. I'd be going, you want that? Or do you want?
So that's why I wish the Democrats would run like a national campaign, just like one commercial that said, "Do you want Marjorie Taylor Greene back in a committee or not?" This election is basically about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, or just any of the dumb Republican lines, like anything like the homemade meth versus the Mexican meth from Senator Daines. Like, just play a montage of the dumbest quotes and just have some spokesperson going on like, this is what's representing the Republican Party right now. You can stop this. Like, the power's in your hands to keep this stupidity from infecting the Congress anymore. There is a clear choice on the ballot. There is no Democrat dumber than any of these. Like, none running for office right now. We all have a baseline of smarts that's higher than us. You won't hear us sounding nearly as stupid as them. Just think about it. Just food for thought. We'll just fling that out there. I would just play the stupidest quotes they've ever said, which there's plenty of footage. There is mountains of footage from the last 2 years that are so brutal and so ignorant that it's like a blooper reel, except they mean it. When they say this crazy stuff, just like you always say, when somebody says this is what they are, you just believe them. and like their highlight reel of stupidity, they really mean this stuff. You know, when Bobbert says we need to gather up all the gays because of the monkeypox and put them in a camp, like, I don't care who you are. Like, you got to go, God almighty. Like, that's friggin' Nazi. Like, they just, you go, how did that happen in 1936? I'm going, we are living that moment right now. This moment in American democracy, we're literally picking between the Weimar Republic or the Third Reich. It's just that clear. Because they had their Reichstag moment on January 6th. And their follow-up to that moment is on November 8th, where they're going to seal the deal to destroy democracy if we let them. And that is the only choice is, do you want them to finish the process they started on January 6th, 2021 on November 8th? Well, we have to make hard decisions where we're going to live on November 9th if we wake up with a Republican majority. I know I do. I've got to deeply consider moving on November 9th if I wake up and we lose Congress. I will not be safe in the state for much longer, if at all. This state's come for us before in 2016. It's to say that people's lives are in danger after so much has happened in the last 6 years, and they're only angrier now. And so that's the wrap of
On
the
that
show.
positive note.
On that positive note,
You promised we would end the show positively.
Yeah. The positive thing is, though, that we won in 2020. We took back the Senate in 2020.
2020.
And now we have the ability to continue that journey and help Biden, help our country. And that clearly is on the ballot. And if you like what you see right now, and you like what you've seen the last 18, 19 months, you got a real clear choice. Vote for another Democrat to support Biden. If you hated it, well, then we know what your choice is going to be. But on that note, we're going to clear out with some more Lady Gaga. And
Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. That's a positive
Lady
note.
Gaga.
Maybe.
Yes.
I get my word.
And I get to dance. Still time I get to dance.
I don't know what's doing.
What is that kind of music on?
Well, it just doesn't want to. We'll end on ABBA instead. Babu.
Babu.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching Two Queers and Trucks, the improv edition. We did wing it a little bit tonight. And so hopefully by next week, things will be normal again. So we did have a lot of fun. And we talked about a lot of political stuff again. Have a great week. And be safe out there.
Babu.
Hello, everybody. We got Two Queers and Trucks and another episode in the can. We appreciate y'all watching and tuning in every week. Hope that you tune into our podcast, both with Coffee and Pandosi and Two Queers and a Truck. We talked about all kinds of things this week, from white supremacy to Joe Biden calling somebody a son of a bitch to a whole bunch more. Thanks for tuning in, and y'all be safe.
Bye, boo boo.